Hello, Matthew.
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
Big Matt. Big Matt.
That's what they call me on the streets.
You haven't gained any weight. I was hoping you'd join and just be super fat.
Since the last time we
Didn't
talked,
happen.
how long
Didn't
has it
happen.
been?
It's been a month. Our last episode was on 121.
Austin didn't have a child.
That
Yeah,
was
think about
changed
everything
since
that's happened in that month. I had
True,
a
you did have a
child.
child.
Sam got engaged.
Sam wasn't.
It's equally as likely that I would have put on 100 pounds.
Yeah, you should have put on some sympathy weight, you know?
For your
Transfer the
child.
weight of the baby to you.
Well, congratulations to both of you. That's very exciting.
We've been talking since the 5th grade, and somehow we've got more to say. Beat kicks in faster rhythm. Inflation's high, the game's too steep. Stream wars rage while we lose sleep. Big tech's wild, the Fed's a mess, but let's start a party, I guess. Symposium, where tangents thrive. Old friends talking, the takes collide. Symposium, no wrong or right. Just good conversation deep into the night. Yeah, we're still talking.
Made you save the stash, Sam.
Yeah, I'm kind of growing it out a little bit.
Okay.
Did you get the vid at the tables, at the casino tables, or where did you get it at?
The stash? Oh, the COVID. Yeah, it must have been at the tables or maybe on the plane. I'm not sure. But my dad, my brother, this is actually funny. It pairs with the stash. My dad, my brother, and I, it was like a guy's trip. We all got sick and had the same sickness, same timeline. Like, we was just like, we got the same thing. And then we didn't see each other for like a week or something. And I was starting to feel better. So I went over there and I was like, anybody want to go for a walk? It was when we had like 65-degree weather. And just that afternoon, I decided to randomly shave a full beard into a mustache. And I went over to my parents' house and I said hi to my mom. And she was like, you have a mustache. And I was like, yeah, you like it? And she was like, it's fine, but it's just weird because your dad also has a mustache. And he and George just took a picture because George randomly also had a mustache. All three of us on the same day decided randomly, like, my dad doesn't wear a mustache. He's never worn a mustache in his whole life. And we all just at the same time decided to make a mustache. So I think that might have been one of the symptoms of whatever
COVID does to a guy.
That's funny.
What were you guys all doing? You're on like a vacation or something?
Yeah, I was on it's an annual ski trip out to Lake Tahoe, which we narrowly avoided. So there has been almost zero snow out west up until when we went. And then last week they got dumped on like 5 feet of snow up on the mountains, which can sometimes cause pretty unstable snow conditions, snowpack. And there was a group of skiers, about 10 people, who got caught in an avalanche. I think they were on like a guided trip where they like camped out there or something, but 10 of them, I think, disappeared. 2 were recovered, and I think 8 died in an avalanche. And it was like the same place basically that we were skiing like 3 days earlier. Yeah, pretty scary.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it was a fun trip.
Good.
Well, I'm glad you guys all felt the need to get mustaches. I think you're all cooler for it.
I know. Yeah, and then a couple days later, I proposed to Grace, and
Is that what made you propose? Did your family convince you on the ski trip? They're like, you should just do it.
No. I had talked to my parents about it maybe a week or 2 prior. I had been planning on doing it for a while, but didn't really know how or when I was going to. I didn't really have any plans to, but I was like actively trying to formulate one, like, when am I going to talk to her dad and ask for his permission? And I just didn't really know when it was going to happen. And then we had just hung out with a couple of my friends who were getting induced to have their first child. And so Grace and I were back home after we worked out, just sort of talking about kids and what our timelines sort of looked like and what we wanted the future to be. And I was like, yeah, I think I think I want to get married. And she was like, oh yeah, I want to get married too. And we had talked about it before, so it wasn't like a really bizarre question. And I was like, no, I think I want to get married soon. And she was like, okay, like I want to get married too. I was like, do you want to marry me? And I'm like getting all excited now, like realizing what I'm doing. And she's like, yeah,
Yeah.
why? Like, what are you asking? Why are you saying that? I was like, will you marry me? She's like, Sam, what are you saying? Like, are you being serious right now? And so then I was like, I'm being serious right now. Like, I'm not joking. And then I got down on one knee and I was like, Grace, will you marry me? And she was like, what? Yes. And she was just so excited. And she asked me a bunch of times. A respectable question because I didn't have a ring. So I wasn't ready. So then we had plans.
You've been punked. You're on the next episode of Symposium, a new punk show on YouTube.
Yeah. No, so then we went ring shopping and spent the next week slowly coming down with COVID. This was before I got sick. So it was like,
Oh, I was going to ask if you were sniffling while you were proposing.
No, I felt okay. I think I had a sore throat the next day or something. So then I just slowly descended from like huge celebration, happiest time, like happiest man in the world to like, hey, I was out pretty cold, but the 1 week after I proposed, I had like 4 days where I needed to get a ring. So I went to a place locally, and you guys might appreciate this. And then I'm done. I bought a gold bar off the internet, like 1 ounce gold bar in 2020, early 2023 or so for like $1,900.
Good timing.
Yeah,
Great
it was like almost $2,000. And now at the time, gold was worth $5,000. So I walked into the jewelry store with my gold bar and I like slid it across the counter. And I was like, can I trade this for a ring? And they're like, would you mind coming back tomorrow? Because I need yes, we can do that, but I need to like figure out like what we're going to do.
You're like, gold is actually really volatile right now, and so I would prefer to sell it today, not tomorrow when it's down 10%.
Yeah, they did. They said like today we'll give you $5,000, but like we'll update that every day. Like we're not going to hold that price. So I felt pretty badass trading in my gold bar for a diamond ring.
It's pretty badass.
Yeah,
Just sliding it.
Here's this rock.
This is for you.
There's yours, Austin. Tell us about the child. You also have a very exciting event.
Child is here, 2 weeks old.
10 fingers,
yeah.
10 toes.
10 fingers, 10 toes. Made sure of
21
that.
inches.
20 and a half, 9 pounds, 6 ounces. So a big baby, as expected. Doing well. The only problem we've been having, honestly, was the first week keeping weight on her. Babies like to, I guess, lose weight pretty quickly, or can. And so we've been trying to pack on the calories to keep her weight up, but she's moving in the right direction now, and everybody's doing good. So
I didn't know that.
They have to eat
That's
every 3
interesting.
hours.
I did know they eat a
So
lot.
all night we're up, basically. Well, it's much far more work for Victoria. I basically get up, hand the baby to her, change the diaper, whatever. Then
You're
she
not
has to do all the
breastfeeding?
hard work. I am not breastfeeding. No. So
You just stick with gender norms. Wow.
yeah.
Do you go
for
back to
now.
sleep, or do you stay up with her the whole time that she's eating?
No, I go right back to sleep. I shove my head in pillows.
Someone's got to sleep. Yeah.
But no, it's it's been pretty good. So
Yeah,
helps
pretty awesome.
obviously to not be working. So I have 2 more weeks of paternity leave, which is good.
It's not like the government jobs we've heard of where you get 6 months. It's pretty crazy.
If you're a consultant at a big firm and are on a government contract, you get 6 months paternity leave. So
Absurd.
might as well
I'd
just
have
keep
2
it.
kids a year.
Just absurd relatively to
What's
everybody
that?
else.
The person we know did have 2 kids in a short time
Really?
span.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't work.
Yeah, this firsthand knowledge.
Justin, can you lower your camera a tiny bit?
You want to see the mic?
He loves to have this angle where we just see his.
Yeah,
Matthew, I don't know if you noticed, but Justin sounds a lot better. He told us before you joined, but he upgraded his
Yeah,
mic.
look at this, Matt.
Whoa, I mean, you do sound better. Let me
This
see
is not
that
the only
again.
surprise, guys. Look at this.
Show him again.
Whoa! Is this
What?
unofficial merchandise?
What is that? We have merch now?
This is the Symposium.
I would pay at
my
least
God.
$59.95 for that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Dedicated
That's
fan
impressive.
Merch.
got it for me.
That's cool.
And
Dedicated
awesome.
fan. I thought you started a softball team in our name.
not a bad idea.
we
Easy
gonna need to-
advertisement. Get the.
I would
Should
try
we get
out.
some merch up on our website? Sell some.
Hell yeah.
Pretty
We
easy to
give a
do. We
logo?
tried to do it back in high school, didn't we, Austin?
We did.
Mojo?
Remember what it was called?
Yeah,
Mr.
Mulu. Mr. Mulu.
Mr. Mulu.
I tried
Would
to
you
make-
guys buy a brand called Mr. Mulu?
Our first
No.
design was a
Buy the
giraffe. I bet I
brand?
still have
Depends
it.
on what it is.
But that's not a brand where you would just not buy off the name.
I wouldn't buy it off the name.
Come on, Mr.
Come
Mulu.
on. We had a. Let me.
Sounds like a
let me
whimsical
just.
old man. Like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of Willy Wonka-ish man.
That's not what we were
This is-
thinking when we came up with it.
I don't think I have.
We had a beginning of a site. I mean,
Like-
we got decently far.
Like Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. That's what I'm thinking here. Mr. Mulu's Wonderful
So I
Emporium.
I don't have. I don't have it on its shirt, but this was going to be our first, our kind of like lead off design. Oh, let me share.
For Mr. Mulu.
That we were gonna print. We were gonna print on a shirt.
What kind of business were you guys trying to create?
A T-shirt company.
T-shirt, baby. Actually, and we
Just
were kind of
general.
one of the first. That's like a major thing now. Everybody's doing it, but like I feel like we were kind of one of the first people on the train to start a random company just T-shirt printing. This was back
Sure.
in 2008.
This was when.
Did you just claim to be the
Were-
first person to come up with a t-shirt company?
Merch.
Yeah, we were gonna sell
Merch.
merch. This was gonna be our first design.
That was not the first design.
Yeah, it was. I have a Mr. Mulu folder.
This
and
is
this
the
was our
Toys
first
R
design.
Us giraffe,
And-
and I
and
don't
then,
know who
like,
the guy is.
Who drew
This
it?
old guy from. I don't know. We didn't have AI at the time. Now we could do a lot more because we have AI.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like someone had to draw that
So-
for you, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't one of
Maybe-
you two.
I mean,
I don't know how we did this. Maybe
I
we
like
used
it.
Photoshop.
I would just put Symposium over that and revive it. Like I would buy it if it just
Alright.
said Symposium on it.
That's the Symposium
that.
logo.
Yeah.
Mr. Mulu with this giraffe.
Did the screen share stop?
That guy
Yeah,
is named Mr. Mulu for sure.
That's Mr. Mulu. We also had a golf. We were gonna do one of a golfer.
Is
are
this
these
like
on
free
your
AI.
phone? How do you get
No,
this?
they're. I have a OneDrive folder with this stuff in it.
Oh,
Is this like the space apes or something that they sold? Are you guys just gonna like basically just sell a brand?
NFTs?
Yeah, you guys just gonna sell these random like artwork on t-shirts? Was that the goal?
Dude, think of the people
Speaking
that
of-
came up with NFTs and made so much money off of suckering people into buying
And
those.
lost so. Yeah, think about how many people lost.
Yeah,
so
the
much
Bored
money.
Apes. I think they're still worth like $12,000,
That's it,
but
Bored
at a
Apes.
time they were like multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah, Justin Bieber paid
yeah.
several 100,000 or something like that.
Yeah. Did you guys watch the big game?
It's
You
up on
a few
Sunday
times I woke
morning?
up early to watch something.
I didn't
My one
realize we
hockey
hadn't
game
won
of the year.
since the Miracle game. Because I had a false memory. I guess I had one of the what is it? Butterfly? Is it butterfly effect where you think something happened but didn't? Or is that the what's the
Deja
one?
vu?
No,
Are you thinking of the Mandela effect?
that's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's something different though, like when it's Berenstein Bears instead of Berenstain Bears.
Mandela effect is a
Yes.
phenomenon in which large groups of people
Mandela?
share the same. Large groups share the same false memory. It shows up in the children's book Berenstain Bears.
Gotcha.
Or
So
like
it's
the-
not large. It's not large enough for just my brain to forget it. But I remembered the TJ Oshie. I don't know if you guys will remember that. But when TJ Oshie had all those like goals for the US in the shootout back in like I think this was like 2010 or something. I thought we'd won it the whole thing back then, but I think we lost. That was like the semifinal, and then we lost in the final to Canada then. So I thought we'd won. So that was pretty cool. I mean, we hadn't won in like 46 years. So that's pretty sweet.
Toughness is just insane. There's no sport that I think comes close to hockey players. I mean, the fact that guy, he lost half his tooth and is like out there playing and did not even take a break. He just kept playing.
Why
That's
don't
like
they
an
wear
exposed
mouth
nerve,
guards?
isn't it?
That's what I want to
They
know.
do. But he's still got
I
to
think some of them
out.
think they're too tough to wear mouth guards, but that was insane. Just knock 2 teeth out and he's just playing.
Yeah, why don't they have like grills on their masks? Like their masks
'Cause
are
they're
just
tough.
over their eyes.
You would be a wuss. If you,
Well,
I think that is
there
it.
was one American player that had a full mask.
yeah,
But, yeah, I think it's
because he had a
not
previous
cool.
like face injury.
Yeah, it's voluntary. I think that it's like what you said, Austin. They think they're tough, and some of them are tough, but
They are pretty tough. I mean, I'm not.
you got to pay
I
for
don't
that.
know. That was
That really good dentist.
that was a heck of a game. They played like, man, they were playing so hard that entire time. For all 60 minutes plus overtime. And I don't watch a lot of hockey, but it seemed like they were giving it their all.
Did you guys see the I guess the medal ceremony for that? When for the Canadians, they give you
Yeah.
the silver and then like a stuffed doll,
Yeah.
and the Canadian guy just looks at it in disgust.
It's like they were
Just,
doing that
"What
for
is
everybody.
this?"
They were giving all these Olympians these what do they call it? Lab
They were like the mascots, right?
these little plush animal things. There's
Yeah.
a name for them. And yeah,
You
I
just
was
play
like,
your
who the
heart out.
hell
You just
thought
give
of
your
that?
soul, and then they're just like, "Well, here's your consolation prize," and you're just
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page here because I made the same comment with a bunch of people like a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "Oh, I think they probably like them." I'm like, they could probably give two shits about
No.
I'm like, that is going to end up in their basement for the rest of their lives in a box
No,
somewhere.
They said on Pardon My Take today, they said I'd love to get I want to get their hands on one of the losing stuffed animals. So like I'm sure the Canadian locker room had a trash can full of them. So if somebody could just send one our way.
That leads into a great argument that I also was having. This might be a hot take, I don't know. How do you guys feel about the bronze medal? I am of the mindset they should get rid of it. I just feel
For
like
all
third
sports?
place. Yes, I just feel like third place, like if you're a true athlete, you get bronze, you should be pissed. You should be like, I don't want this medal, throw it away. Like I'm the third best. That should not feel good to you if you're a true competitor. You should be like, I want to be number one. And even second, like you can make the argument for second, but I understand giving second if it's a really close race, you just missed. But like third, why are you being rewarded for third?
I mean, it is third in the world. So, like, as a competitor, I see what you mean. Like, I would be pissed if I'm that close to, like, gold. Obviously, gold is the prize. But, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I would rather medal or podium than not. So, I mean, yeah, I would say either gold only or I'm okay with bronze, too.
I think when you have these sports where there's like somebody who's such a high outlier, two people that are just like locks to win, where like people end up fighting for that's I think where you see people that are really happy to win the bronze is like when certain others are so far out there, like the Norwegians in the cross country skiing, like
wrecked.
they're out
Merchants.
there, they're just gonna win forever. Or like the Canadians in curling that were cheating the whole time.
Mhm.
If you can get third, you're like, well, I knew I was never gonna beat those others in first and second. So we're really playing for bronze, and so I kind of won that in my own head. I mean, in the great words of Ricky Bobby's father, if you ain't first, you're last. So
I was gonna
I
say, I
understand
thought
your point.
Austin, you'd be on my side here. You're a bit real anti-participation trophy. In my mind,
I
third place
am.
is a participation trophy.
I am very anti-participation trophy. I think all those stuffed animals were definitely participation trophies, and
Totally.
but I agree with you too. And I think some of these, I don't know. It's a good feat, but I don't hate the idea of making it. It does feel a little bit too kumbaya, brotherly. The Olympic spirit.
Well,
Everybody
that's
sort
kind
of
of the
comes
point of the
together at the
Olympics.
end, hugs each other. I think we should, let's have a little bit more nationalism in the Olympics. Let's be a little bit more
That's
focused
the
on our own
opposite of
countries.
the goal, the stated mission statement
Um,
of the Olympics. You go to their website, it's not gonna be what it says.
I think we just need to remember that we're country first here. So
Okay, you know what? Well, the reason I kind of dislike the bronze, other than what I was saying, is they always show the medal counts, and I think that's a dumb representation of the success of a
yeah,
nation because theoretically you could have a country that has 0 gold and 0 bronze and 0 silver but have like 30 bronze and they would be considered like top 3 because they had 30 third place finishes. You're like, you're not that good as a country, you're pretty solid at coming in third place.
Yeah. So
and
the
everything.
overall championship, like the medal, is that true? Like whoever wins the medal, like overall medals, it's just total medals.
I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
think
Like
there
your
actually
golds
is a
aren't
winner.
weighted more than your bronze. Don't they always
There's
talk
no-
about like which
Well,
country had the?
There's total medal count. That's just a very easy, lazy way to say who won the Olympics.
Yeah,
So
But
like
the winner really
Norway
should be the
is
whoever won the most golds.
that's my opinion. But
You know,
there's
that
actually,
would-
You
there's
could
no
probably make an
technical
argument.
winner. Like the Olympics does not acknowledge anyone won the Olympics. They acknowledge like individuals.
because
that
if
won
they
medals.
did, they would talk about how Norway is just a cross-country skiing merchants, and they only win the medal count because I'm looking at the stats: 14 medals in cross-country skiing, 11 miles in biathlon. So those are very, I mean, they're not the same, obviously, but they have the same stamina characteristics. You take away, that's 25 of their 41 medals are just in long distance skiing. So you know that puts them down to what, 16? So
One guy
USA
won.
should win this if you take away just long distance skiing, if you
Right.
as a sport, you know.
That should be in the
Just
Summer
saying.
Olympics. Move that to the summer, and we win the winter. I think that that one guy won 6 from. He won 6 gold
Bravo.
medals.
Michael Phelps
In all
of the
of
Winter
his events.
Olympics.
I'll give him some credit though. He was running a 6-minute mile uphill on skis
in the snow.
which was pretty
skis,
insane.
man.
In this,
Did you guys see the obstacle course one? That one was kind of cool. They like had to like
No.
run through this obstacle course like cross country ski. It was like they basically do it in like 3-ish minutes, and they like go through these obstacles, and then they have to like walk up stairs, and then they have to like ski down to the end. It was actually pretty fun.
I missed that one. We did
Just,
watch a lot.
I
we watched
literally
a lot
just
of
watched the
Olympics.
ice hockey. You know, this Olympics kind of flew by. I at least did not watch anything. Well, I normally try to watch a little bit, but you watch
A lot of
curling?
curling.
Right when I was in the middle of COVID, Grace and I were on a little post-engagement Valentine's Day trip, and I was just in bed watching curling for like hours.
I wanted to ask you, Sam. Grace posted something on Instagram relatively recently, and there was a Mexican meal that looked delicious. I would like to know where that was, so we could possibly go.
I gotta take a look at this here. I might have to, if Grace is private, I'm gonna have to give her a follow.
We're gonna have to
Hopefully
bleep out this
she
name. We don't give out
accepts.
free advertising on this show.
We're gonna
True.
bleep out Grace's name. No free
But
advertising.
we will rightfully so.
Yes,
we
that's
will
the
reach
picture.
out.
That looks delicious. Where is that?
Traverse City.
Oof, that's
City,
a
I'm not
drive.
driving there. Can't
That's
you
a
get,
hike.
you
they
get
can
this
have all
me
the
like that,
advertising
Grace?
they want.
That is
DoorDash
not
it.
what we wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I'm following you, Grace. If you want to, no
Sounds
pressure.
good.
If you want to accept, you can. Nice ratio, by the way. Almost
Oh,
2x
thanks.
followers versus following. That's
I've never had a
Pretty
good
good.
ratio in my life.
Me neither.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna add one more thing, but your baby is so cute. Oh
Thank
my
you.
goodness. She's so
No, Austin, how do you feel that the algorithm has your baby?
yeah. Luckily, I think people's faces change a lot. I asked Victoria. I was like, "Are we gonna be those like? Are we gonna like put the picture of a smiley face or an emoji over her face every time she's on the internet?" We decided not right now. I think baby's faces change a lot between what she'll look like when she's 12. So, but
Is that your
it's
age?
out there. That's for sure.
Is that the age she's allowed to be on the internet? 12.
No, not till 18. Then she can get a Facebook account.
Did you guys read that article
Only
that I
Facebook.
sent?
I don't have a New York Times subscription. I'm not wealthy like yourself.
I had it at one time, and then every time they're like, you need to renew or you're gonna get charged the full amount, I say I'm gonna leave, and then they offer me it for like $2 a
Yeah,
month. And so I'm
that's
like,
what
yeah, I
I
can
did
do
to the
that.
Wall Street Journal.
Is that a life hack I haven't learned?
Yeah, you just anything in life, you just say you're going to cancel, and then they'll give you
They'll
something.
give you a discount.
Oh, let me tell you guys something before I want to go to your thing for your article, Matthew, for sure. And I want to talk about data centers and all the other things. You got to listen to this. You know how we've talked about in the past, I think, nothing is made to last anymore. This goes back like a lot of episodes. Well, we had a GE washing machine that is 2.5 years old. And the week before the baby was born, it broke. And it had already broke in May. It was like $1,000 new. Had already broken May, cost $400 to fix. Broke again, was going to be $1,200 to fix. 2.5 years
Dang.
old, completely junk. And so we had to replace it, and that is now in the dump. 2.5-year-old, like
Is
highest
there a
end GE
manufacturer's warranty?
washer machine. 1 year.
Oh, damn. They know.
They sent me, I complained to them via email, and they sent me a $200 gift certificate to buy other GE products, which I will not be doing.
What's the new
Yeah.
brand?
The new brand, we bought a Speed Queen, which is made in Wisconsin. Best of the best. It's supposed to last 25-year warranty.
5-year warranty's nice.
1 year
You gotta
warranty
really
is
like-
bullshit.
They're very expensive, but hopefully it lasts.
1
So
year is crazy
that's
for a
my
warranty.
piece on washer. Isn't that nuts? For GE,
That's like
that's nuts.
Something
It
that's supposed
says
to last you
on
the
their
life,
10
like
years.
a long time.
It has a placard on like the front of it that says 10-year warranty, but it turns out that warranty is only applies to the drum that the laundry spins in, but none of the electronics. And of course, the
Gotta
electronics
love
fail.
marketing.
Like,
This steel drum will last.
yeah, that'll last 10 years. Yeah, okay, that'll last 1,000 years. But these Chinese electronics are gonna last 2 days.
This is why we do this podcast. Put these companies on blast. GE, you're going
That's right.
down. You don't
Is
understand
your
how
new
big
one
of a
more
following we have.
analog?
It is a lot more analog. It doesn't have any of this like Wi-Fi or app or all the BS. Speed Queen is the brand that they use in laundromats.
Hmm.
You know, I'm hoping that I never have to think about a washing machine for a while, because I was at some of my lowest points there 3 days before the baby was coming, and we didn't have a washing machine. You can imagine how Victoria was thinking.
I
That
feel
is
like they
becoming
just-
like one of my criteria for appliances is like no smart features. Like if it has smart features, then I'm like, this is junk.
That's what I was about to say.
It's-
It feels like they're just throwing it on everything because they're like, this is the future. This is technology. And it's like, I feel like whenever, you know what I notice it on the most is cars. The technology that they put in
Cars are
cars
so
is
bad.
shit. It's always like, I've had, I think 3 cars since like the let's say the era of like touchscreen that like my car has had them, and every one of them breaks. Every one of them just like at some point the radio buttons don't work, or like, but any analog car I ever had where you just had a knob or a button never failed.
I got my radio. I got my little Bluetooth adapter.
You can't fix the car. I mean, back in the good old days, you could pop the hood and you could see the engine and the carburetor and you could work on it. Now you got to plug in a fancy computer. There was a tweet that went viral, or an X post that went viral, about this guy that supposedly had quit his job and spent the last 3 months designing a metal coffee pot that has no electronics. Like, it's just all made out of metal. There's not a piece of plastic in it, and no electronics or anything. It's just on-off switch. And it went like super viral, and he got a bunch of like pre-orders for it. But that kind of sparked a lot of people questioning this same conversation of what else could we make that's just, made out of steel and not a bunch of junk.
I mean, I think that's just the nature of, having a public market and have like all these companies being public, is they always have to like push to the next thing. They always have to say like, how do we bring more stockholder value? And if you just make something simple like a coffee pot, if you're GE and you just make, washing machines, after a while you're like, I made the best washing machine. Like, what else can I do? And you know what? Now we're gonna throw a touch screen on there. We're gonna connect to your Bluetooth so you can now like do it from, when you're not home. And it's all stuff that no one really wants or needs, but it's their way of saying, look, we're changing it and trying to make it better. And I just don't think
Yep.
some things don't need
I've
to
said it
necessarily
see some of
work.
them.
I've
Some
said
of
it
these washing
before. Oh,
machines.
sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Austin.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it always comes down to inflation. It's these public companies that need to sell another coffee pot to you every single year, or else their revenues will eventually decline. And the only reason that they need to do that is that they can beat inflation. You need to have a higher return than 3%, and the only way that you can do that is by selling more crap faster. So if there wasn't inflation, then we wouldn't have this enshittification of all of our appliances, because you wouldn't need to buy a new fridge every 3 years because they're happy to sell you one the last 20 years.
Austin, did you try to repair it yourself?
Oh yeah, I worked on that thing a lot.
Did you use
I
AI?
bought one of the bought one of the boards. Oh, I mean, I use so much AI, and it couldn't help me exactly. The problem is you don't know which board is the problem, and then they're like, well, they're all busted because one went and then all the others, and so I replaced one and that didn't do it, and anyway, becomes just a whole chase to where they basically say it's going to cost more to repair than to and to get someone to tell you that it's going to be $1,200 to repair, you have to pay that person $120 to tell you that. So now it's, just
Just had to do that with my water softener.
a nightmare.
I had to install a new $4,000 water softener this morning, actually. I'm actually excited about that.
Did you get it tankless?
$4,000.
No, water softener, not water heater.
The water
Yeah.
softener.
That's expensive for a water softener.
Wow.
It's gonna have some soft water.
It's going to be a good one.
A nice water
Really
softener, but
soft
I'll never forget
water.
this. I was talking to one of our HVAC guys, and he was talking to me about the groundwater that we have in the Midwest in America, and he said it's some of the hardest water that you can find anywhere in the world. So you kind of do need like the top of the line water softeners for where we live.
Yeah.
But that's the
Speaking
trade-off.
of
We got fresh
water,
water.
Speaking of water, they claim I'm transitioning us into the data center conversation if we want to go there. I won't forget about your article, Matthew, but
No, it's okay. We can bring it
There's
back. I thought this was a good transition.
we're in the midst of the data center boom. We've talked plenty of times on this very show about how every big tech company is investing tens and tens of hundreds of billions of dollars in data centers to fuel their AI hopes and dreams. And a lot of that data center demand has found its way into middle and small town America and coming to towns like some of our very own podcast host, St. Joseph County, Indiana, has had several of these, but there's hundreds of them popped up that are popping up in approval stages all throughout the country, but see a lot of them through kind of the Midwest and Texas and a lot of these places where there's, I would say generally probably just plentiful power and water. I think power is actually the more important part than the water. I think, in my opinion, the water part gets a little bit overblown, but the power part and the land part, you have plenty of wide open space. Fleetwood Mac, shout out, right?
Mhm.
No.
I didn't get that one.
Anybody? Okay. That's going to be bad if that's not actually who that's by. Anyway.
It's a song?
Yeah, wide open spaces.
Sing it.
Dixie Chicks. Shit. And you can't say Dixie Chicks anymore because that's
Chicks.
racist or something. The Chicks.
Chicks.
The Chicks. Wide open spaces. The thing that gets me canceled is saying the Dixie Chicks. That'd be hilarious.
We'll
So
somehow
anyway,
get
St.
by.
Joseph County has had one of these projects canceled. Who shared? Matthew, you shared the podcast episode with us. Yeah,
Mhm.
a big podcast did an episode about this, and so I'll let whoever, you can talk about it if you'd like. But long story short, I would say that 2025, I saw that there were 25 projects canceled, and then 2026, there's like 100 or so. An article I found that are at risk of we're getting a lot of applause. There's like 100 at-risk projects in 2026. So I think that this is going to be really interesting to see how you kind of have like the technologists and we'll call them like the Silicon Valley group that is very hell-bent on figuring out how we spin up this computing power to power all the AI that we think that we can accomplish, whether that's through robotics or through the AI application layer and how that funnels into our lives. For that to happen, we need data centers somewhere, and they're trying to kind of get those into really some of the backyards of middle America, and that group of people isn't too happy about it. So that's my setup, but where do you all kind of stand, or what would you like to say on it? Matthew, you want to start?
Sure. We'll start with the trivia question. Which state do you think has the most data centers in the United States? Does anyone know? Anyone want to guess?
Sam, what's your guess?
I'm guessing Texas.
I was also going to guess Texas.
I guess
Hmm?
Indiana, because it just feels like a trap question.
None of you are right. It is Virginia. Virginia has the most data centers inside the United States. I don't know 100% why. I think they have a lot of water tables. I think they had a lot of open land. It's close to DC. I'm sure that probably has something to do with it. Yeah, that was just kind of my fun fact. But yeah, so like Austin set it up pretty well. But the New York Times daily podcast, which is just a daily podcast they do, kind of picks like a general topic of current events that they find important that people should know about. They did one like the other week, and St. Joseph County was the subject, and I know that area intimately as well as the rest of you do. And so I thought it was pretty interesting to hear about and hearing names that we recognize. I don't know if Austin, did you end up listening to it? Justin, you might have recognized the name, but they said Jason Piontek.
I-
He is the father of that one of the girls who was the class above us. Remember?
Yeah.
And
Wow,
he
I
was
didn't pick up on that, but yeah.
yeah. I heard that name. I'm like, oh, that's funny. He was speaking for the union side because that was the interesting perspective. Is
Okay.
they kind of talked about they had this council meeting where everyone got to go in and give their opinions because it was if you haven't for the general public like if you don't know about like city meetings, you think of like Parks and Rec where people would just like go in and like they'd have those big meetings, everybody could give their opinion. That's essentially like what they had here. And so they had people first that wanted to talk who were in support of the vote to move forward with this, and it was almost strictly unions because the unions obviously were going to make a lot of money, and I understand that perspective. Going to get jobs for a lot of their union members. They're going to start apprenticeships that have a lot of money towards that, and I understood that too. So I could totally see their perspective. It's definitely a more short-term income based for the people that they're supposed to be, lobbying for. So I get that. And theirs was not as long, but then they invited up all the dissenters, and it went until like 3 a.m.
I think the first one was like 25 minutes of union reps coming up and talking about it, and then the next one, it was till what? Yeah, what do you say, 4 a.m. or something like that? Just something
So they closed
stupid
at
in the
3
morning.
a.m. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then they had
3
to
a.m.
vote at 3 a.m. because they had to vote by the end. And the votes were 7-2 in favor of preventing them from moving forward with the operation. There are some key details. One of the big ones that isn't necessarily due to the same reasons you would expect for them shutting down was like these companies are some of them are doing it under like a pseudonym and they're not actually telling people who they are that are coming in, and that was the case with this specific plant that they wanted to put up or the data center. They didn't tell the public who the company was. I would imagine most of the times companies do that because a lot of them are large tech companies and they know if their names are associated with it, the general public will try to drive a harder bargain. If you're Google, if you feel like you're being undercut, you don't want to tell the public you have a lot of money. You want them to not know, and so you can like negotiate with they're just negotiating with a business. But if it's a Fortune 5 company or something huge like that, you're gonna drive a harder bargain. So that was one. In this case, they seem to think it was maybe it was more of a real estate operator, and they were building it for a company, and so that was also a part of the reason why it might have gotten shut down. Is like it actually wasn't Google or Amazon or whoever it may be. It was someone else trying to take advantage, saying we're going to build this because we can, and then we're going to sell it or rent it to one of the massive companies. So it was really just a profit machine, and so like that could have been another reason why they shut it down. And so whatever the motives were, it was definitely interesting to see how the public took a stand because you generally don't see that on like a county level. It feels like, I don't know, this is just maybe my opinion, but like things just tend to happen that you disagree with and you don't feel like you ever really have a say when it comes to the government. You're just like, oh, well, that sucks. They decided they're going to move forward with this for whatever reason, and I can't do anything about it. I guess they always tell me vote, that'll make a difference, but you go and vote, it doesn't feel like it makes a difference. But this was an interesting time where it felt like people's voices were heard and like a difference was made. So I don't know. What are your guys' opinions on the whole thing?
I don't do these companies, so they must do some sort of analysis where they say, all right, it'll be better for us in the long run if we don't use our name versus using our name. I feel like that's a massive gamble because there's a chance that doesn't come back to bite you. But I guess they come in and say, all right, we're going to come in as a pseudonym and hope that people don't ask questions and care about that. I'm just kind of speaking out loud. I wonder what the math is on that. Like, do they actually determine that that's going to be work out in the long run?
Well, some of it come a little bit like of how the money kind of flows. So you have a company like some of these big data center companies, like CoreWeave is a name maybe you've heard of. And so the reason why you might use one of those companies is because if you don't want to take on that debt, you can go to that. Like basically, CoreWeave could go to Meta or whoever and say, "We'll build this data center. We will take on all of this debt, and you will be our customer." And so there is like some financial decision to be made by a company of whether they want to put out that capital or not, or have another company be the holder of that debt essentially. And you just are paying for the service of it on a long-term lease or whatever. So I don't know, that's always that they're trying to hide from it versus it's just kind of the way that you might, I mean, any company, like if you take the thing that I think is interesting about this is take the word AI or data center out of it and just make it like distribution center. We built, thousands and thousands of distribution centers everywhere to move packages. And yes, the power and maybe water consumption and profile looks different, but building size is, still massive. And we didn't really see any pushback on that. So I do think it's interesting to, like, for me, is there this false, is it less a pushback on, like a public pushback on the use of that space or power or whatever it might be, and more just a pushback on like this scary thing called AI that we don't know what it means. And the only way that we found as like a society to actually push back against it is to say, we're going to stall your ability to actually spin up this compute. And in the short term, like we think that that's a win against AI. I don't know. Because I don't see how it's different than a lot of like other big building projects. Like it's fundamentally just 4 walls and a bunch of stuff inside that takes
before you
power
say
and
like
water.
fundamentally different, yeah, it depends. I wonder how big that power and water is. Mostly power. Like how significant is that difference? And I think that's maybe something that these companies are missing out. If the education is similar and they could tell us that, hey, look, like literally, I have one down the street from me, like a big distribution center just went up in the last year. And frankly, besides the construction that was going on, it really hasn't impacted from what I've seen pretty much anything. Like traffic's not bad or anything like that. So it's not a huge pain in my butt. But I would be curious if they are similar, then why isn't the education campaign out there trying to get everybody to say, hey, look, it's the same as just a normal building project. Your electricity rates are not going to go up, which I think they're having a very hard time doing that because I think it has been proven that electricity rates do go up in areas that have data centers. So I don't know how to walk that line. Problem them. You got to really.
They've done a terrible job. Like what
Yeah.
you said, they've done a terrible education job. You've seen like Microsoft come out and say and make some commitments that like in the communities that they put these in, there won't be, like they'll commit that power won't go up or they'll be a net
Which is
contributor
bullshit.
back to the grid. So like, I don't know who's tracking that, but like that's what they're trying to say. I don't know, what the right solution is. What they need to say is we're going to pay for, I don't know, everybody in St. Joe County, like we're going to, pay
do
for
the
half
Disney
your
World
electricity
structure.
bill.
Yeah, no property taxes for St. Joe County.
But no, you're right. That's like the point.
No, that's definitely the big one. I think what you were getting at, Austin, is definitely one of the factors, I think, in people's minds is like, I think there's a lot of contributing factors of why this got shot down. But one of them definitely is the AI fear. And if you feel kind of like what I was saying is like, you feel like things are out of control, you can't do anything about it. This kind of feels like one of those things that you can like use your voice and like make a difference and actually like slow down the progress of something that they haven't done a whole good job of like showing us the benefits. But I think what Justin was just saying is like the big key contributor is utility prices are going to skyrocket in these areas. Like early on, I remember when St. Joseph County, it was like 4 or 5 years ago when they were putting in like the first one of these, everyone saw it as, wow, we have a huge tech company coming into our region and putting in a big business. Like, this is great. Like, who wouldn't have thought that 5 years ago? You know, like AI was a different place. It wasn't on the mind as much. We didn't have a podcast, so obviously it wasn't a big enough deal. But when they came in, everybody was pretty excited. They're like, that's pretty cool. We're getting this business in our area. And that's one of the big keys is we're not getting business in the area. We're getting a one-time payment for a land that then we have a factory that maybe 10 people are going to be working at full time after it's up and operational. There's going to be a short-term influx in work just to put the thing up. Once it's up, the area that sold that land is getting zero benefit. They're getting a negative. The benefit that they are getting in the long run is
Well, let me
AI, I
let me
suppose.
interject.
Go
Let me
for it.
interject because there is a benefit to property values. The county, and if it's in a city, will make money off of increased property value because they tax that. So once you put up a big data center and it's worth $7 billion, you get to tax that, and that becomes annual revenue for whatever municipality that it's in that can help pay for infrastructure improvements or, you know, whatever you want to fill the coffers with. So I think there is a benefit, but the problem with that is a lot of times these counties and cities they're incentivizing these companies to choose them by giving them a tax break on future property taxes in exchange for building there. So a lot of times, I think what you're saying is still correct, that there's not a benefit because cities are using whatever benefit they would have gotten as an incentive to get these companies to build there.
So you're saying property values are going to increase because they can tax the
Yeah, they buy a bunch of farmland that's valued at $20,000 an acre, and then you build a big $8 billion building on top of it. Now that land's worth like, $150,000 an acre. I mean, they don't price it per acre anymore. It's just the property is more valuable because there's a valuable building on top of it. And then that's what drives the taxes. Yeah.
Gotcha. So the property value of that land goes up. Okay. I thought you were saying the property value around it, like people's homes and things. Okay.
The
Mhm.
property
that makes more
value of
sense.
the property value of the property value of the house that now has a view of
That's
said
probably
data
changed.
center probably goes down.
Yeah.
The
That's what I was
county
thinking.
loses like $1,000.
Hey, you pay
in
less
taxes.
taxes if the value of the house is worth less. There you go.
That's
So
right.
In
that property
theory.
It's
value
perfect.
goes, you're lowering everybody else's property value. And like, what are you going to do with that now? That property, you're getting the tax from that increased property value, but now that land is essentially useless
Yeah,
after
the
that.
the argument is that you use that extra $5 million per year that you get from this data center, and you use it to pay for better roads or to pay for infrastructure upgrades to be able to service people's electricity, or like swap out your old lead pipe sewers and put copper ones in. So that's the argument for it. But yeah, I think the arguments against it primarily were concerns with utility costs increasing, which companies have tried to say that they won't, and the power companies have tried to say that we'll keep prices stable. But the amount of load that these buildings are putting on the local infrastructure far exceeds what they were built to do, which is going to cause all kinds of upgrades down the roads, which will be special assessment taxes. So your taxes will increase. They can't, like, this kind of load on a community doesn't have zero impact, no matter how much they want to promise it. I think there's a data center in Memphis, Tennessee that takes 2 gigawatts of energy, which is an insane amount of energy. I think it's something like 30% of all of the energy that Memphis, the entire city, uses goes to one building. So these centers use like a crazy amount of power, which the local utility companies like because that's what they sell. So they're about to get a huge customer. They'll ramp up production, etc. I think that utility costs is one argument against it. For us locally, we live on a water table that is like one of the richest in the world, and that's another reason why that these data centers want to come here, is to be able to cool their servers using our water table. But that's a natural resource that I think local communities have started to feel protective of big companies coming in and destroying their natural resources or stealing them or causing some issues, which I think a lot of data centers say that they use closed loop systems. So they're saying we're not mixing any of the water, none of it changes, we just used it to cool. But there are concerns that using aquifers for these kinds of purposes causes the water to become more acidic. It's naturally basic. And then once you have acidic water running through old city sewer pipes that are lead, like I know in South Bend, a lot of supply lines, I think over 50% are still lead. But because we have basic water, the lead doesn't react. And so it's not a problem. But if you get partially acidic water, then that lead starts to leach into the system and then can become a much bigger issue for local citizens. So
Then become like Nero in Roman times. Go a little crazy with the lead water.
did he? Yeah. So that's another argument against it. And I think that there's others too, for like, these buildings are very loud. There's an audible hum to them if you live within like a mile or two radius. So I think anybody who lives out in the country has an issue living near a data center because of the noise. And I actually just heard there's something called infrasound, which is below, I think, 20 decibels, sound that you can't hear, the human body can't hear, but it's like you can kind of feel it. And that there's a lot of studies that it causes nausea, it causes increased discomfort, and like a lot of negative side effects just caused by this sound that you can't even hear from the sound of these machines sort of whirring off in the distance. Yeah.
So if we make the assumption then to just zoom out, that people don't, I mean, I don't want one of these built across the street from my house. Not for the reasons, honestly, like, it's less even about the electric or the water. Like, I wouldn't want to look at it, but but more like, so the assumption is these don't want to be built around existing residential areas. There's still a lot of, land out there. The problem is like electricity is not probably as readily available, or water around the area where the land is most plentiful, like in the middle of the country. But I guess like the bigger question is, are we okay with slowing down AI? Like, how much are we comfortable slowing down AI progress if, like, we figure it's inevitable that they will find a place to put these things and to build them and to get the power and to put the chips in? Like, the money is there, the money will find a way to get spent. So how much do we want, like, do we want to actually intentionally slow down AI and use this as the means to do it? Or is this really more of just like a story of local citizens caring about like where they live? They don't actually care about AI in the broad sense. And like, the AI is going to happen whether you like it or not.
I think AI definitely has like the fear of AI has something to do with people dissenting a little bit here. And for me, it's not that it's necessarily going to slow it down, but I've never been more proud of a community than when they stood up to these big companies. Because what's more important to me isn't necessarily the speed with which things progress, but that we feel like we have at least a hand on the wheel or a seat at the table in how things progress. And I think that for me was a symbolic representation of saying and demanding that we want a seat at the table in what that future looks like. So maybe AI is coming, and maybe like a lot of like they're going to go somewhere else. But to me, it's really important to me that people feel like they can have an influence on the outcome and what the future looks like. Because if we just say like we have no control over what it's going to look like, we're pawns in somebody else's games, and I don't like that.
I'm going to take a little different route on this. I think the people standing up and obviously making it not easy to set up new data centers is hopefully, this is my optimistic view, going to lead to innovation in the way that these data centers are set up. Because if you start to see the basic problems you run into, like, okay, we take up too much power, okay, we use too much water, these companies will have to innovate to get around those problems. And hopefully that means you come up with really creative solutions to the temperature problems, really creative solutions. Like maybe you take a risk as Amazon or Microsoft, and you're like, okay, this company's got a new chip design that uses 20% less power. Like maybe these companies will hopefully do that and take these risks on innovations that will calm people that have the fears about the power or the water. I think this first wave was companies literally just coming out and saying, hey, we just got to have it. We got to have it. We actually don't care about efficiency. We just got to get these down because, our projections say that we need 5 times the amount of compute right now and we don't have it. Hopefully this is going to be a kind of a springboard for these companies to take a second to slow down just half a second to think, all right, are we doing this in the most efficient way possible? Are there innovations out there that we haven't even thought of? And if we can get these in there, maybe we can actually give a pitch that makes sense to communities, because right now I think they're going headlong and seeing what they can get away with. Like, I cannot believe, I wish the country would come together and realize these companies have a lot of money to spend and not give these tax breaks. Like that just blows my mind, that like what you were saying, Sam, the incentive to having a company come in like for the taxes, but then the first 8 years they're here, they don't have to pay property taxes. Are you kidding me? Like, come on. Like, that is like, in what, the construction jobs? Like, that's what the first 8 years are paying for. Like, I don't know. I think they should pay the buck up front and realize that, hey, we're giving you natural resources, which are the most valuable in the world, because you can't just make these out of thin air. Like, these are finite and we're giving you them. So
I think that's, I mean, to piggyback, I think that's another reason why people are pushing back, because this is like first generation AI data centers. And some people are starting to realize what we have is really valuable, and to maybe hold out a little bit until you see how this thing plays out, because some of these first buildings going up might be obsolete in 2 years. And then you're just left with a bunch of junk that nobody knows what to do with this, 200,000 acre building. That's just like crazy.
Well, it'll be funny. It'll be interesting because you think about like the value of what's inside the building versus the value of the shell of the building. So the shell of the building, I don't have the numbers exactly. It's probably close to what I'm going to say, 1% to 99%. Like the all the value in what it costs to build this thing is inside the shell. It also happens to be that upgrading these racks and chips is sometimes more expensive to replace them than to just build a new building with the new chip stack in it. So what happens when the NVIDIA like Blackwell chip that's being produced now, like that's replaced with whatever the NVIDIA Buzz Lightyear chip in 2 years? Now, do we build Buzz Lightyear chip data centers? I think we'll probably end up like all of that compute will get used through the system still, like even older chips. So I'm not like overly concerned, but it's a valid point. Sam?
So I work in commercial real estate, and this is part of like my interest with AI data centers is if you build a distribution center, like you were saying before, and you build it on spec, like Matt, you were saying some of these LLCs that are building them in order to just lease them back or to sell them to the big companies. Like, it's not necessarily Meta or Amazon that's doing it, but somebody who's building it to have a tenant of Meta or Amazon, right? But when you build a distribution center and Meta leaves after their lease is up, you're still left with a valuable building that has dock doors that can operate for any distributor. So you have a valuable building left over. But with the case of AI data centers, like Austin, you were saying, the shell of the building is no longer the asset. Like, it's not the building that's valuable. It's the chips that are inside of it that are doing the compute that's valuable. And every 2 years, those chips go obsolete. So my keen interest is in the debt that's used to build these buildings, because after you lease out the NVIDIA chips to Meta for 2 or 5 years or whatever, but then they're obsolete. Now you don't have a lease and you have a worthless building because the chips inside are no longer worthwhile. So this is kind of unusual in commercial real estate, where the underlying asset doesn't hold its value for 20 years, for 70 years, like a building does. It's 2 years. And the amount of expense that goes into building this building is insane. So to be able to pay that back and be able to pay off that debt without just having to like tear the whole thing out to install new chips is kind of a crazy sort of, I was listening to a few podcasts about it, but it's a very bubbly situation just with building these data centers, which is, but I think it's just wild.
I got cut out for like 3 minutes. I don't know why my internet just died on me, but I was cut out. But I don't know if you touched on this, but like one of my concerns too, and I don't know if this was like a major driving force in everyone's decision making. I think some people it was probably more economic, but I think the environmental impact's a big one too that people are concerned with. Like the
Yeah,
biggest,
thanks for mentioning that.
I know you mentioned the water, and I agree with that, but the amount of power that is needed, regardless of them increasing utility prices, and I can go into more detail on that, but like Sam did, but they are going to have to, most of these power plants, or not power plants, most of these data centers are backed up by diesel generators, which they're all going to use because at some point when we get enough of these things, there's not going to be enough power on the grid, and they're not going to have enough power, and they're going to have to use these backup generators to use more electricity because America looks like the fools right now compared to China, who has been building nuclear power plants like it's nobody's business over the last couple of years. When the U.S. and that's exactly why Trump is pumping drill baby drill and burn baby burn, because he's trying to, you know, these high tech companies are saying we need all this electricity, we need as much as possible, and he sees that we don't have nuclear to provide in a, let's say, clean energy way, and so he's trying to use as much electricity as we can get, and the only way America knows how to do that is through drilling and burning, and at the end of the day that's really bad for the environment. And if the more and more we have in our area, the worse the air quality is going to be. And I think the northeastern Indiana, northern Illinois, everyone around the Great Lakes is in a pretty good, healthy place in terms of the environment. I would say they have clean access to fresh water, and now we have these data companies coming in that want to put in these burning plants that are going to eventually, just use a lot of our electricity that eventually is just going to have to come from like fossil fuels. And I think that is a concern that a lot of people have as well.
I wonder if there's any good books about the nuclear scare of the United States. You know, how the total lack of nuclear capacity increases in the last couple decades. Like, if anybody has a suggestion, I don't know if anybody on this podcast does, but I might look into books that talk about like what the hell happened on why it became such a boogeyman on terms of energy, because it is an absolute shame that it was just ignored, or other avenues were pursued, even green energy choices like solar and wind. It's almost like, imagine if, I don't know, Barack Obama or someone like, imagine if Barack Obama had started the nuclear push in '08. Like, just imagine the position we would have been in as a country, because those take, 5 to 10 years to really get running? Like, imagine that, right? You have a big boom in '08, so your factories are coming online, let's just say in 2018. What a timing it would have been for the AI boom to then hit in 2020s, like that would have been perfect. But yeah, it absolutely sucks that the nuclear has been such a boogeyman, but now we're so far behind the gun on it that it's going to take half a decade to get up to speed again, if we even do it correctly,
Yeah.
Well,
we
I
should
think
be there.
every administration, you're also going to have the constant the thing that the beauty of China is they have consistency in their leadership. So they can actually tackle these long-term projects that span more than the course of a presidential term. So I think you could probably I don't know if this is precisely true, but you could probably find like parallels in our failure in nuclear like similar to our failure with NASA. The reason why NASA has never been able to actually make any meaningful progress since 1960 is because we constantly fund and defund it all the time and reprioritize our space ambitions. I think the same is true with nuclear. Like 2008 nuclear, like power, AI, those things aren't at the top of Barack Obama's list of things to tackle as he comes into office, and so he's not gonna put much effort there.
Yeah, and
Because
now
we
we're
take
behind the eight
short-term
ball.
views, So
Yeah, we're behind the 8 ball here, and we need all this power now, and we're gonna just have to burn
I do wonder, like, a lot of people talk about how, the Constitution's a damn near perfect document, and you have people that make the argument that you shouldn't be changing anything in the Constitution because it was written so well. I do wonder how, like, long-term goals, like, I'm talking 10-year projects, would have been thought of when coming up with a constitutional democracy that has 4-year terms or like 8-year terms max. I don't know if I'd call it a short-sightedness, but like you'd almost have to have a loophole and say like, hey, look, if this is good enough for the country, you have to let this project go through a 10-year time period or something like that, even if there's a new administration in place. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting thought experiment.
I was listening to another podcast a couple days ago, and there was a question at the end. It was like, who would you want to have dinner with? You could have a dinner with 3 other people or whatever. The answer the person gave was the founding fathers, to like have a conversation with them of like saying, here's where we're at, here's what's happened, here's how this thing has endured, and here's the problems that have happened and the successes, and like would you like, did it play out how you thought, and would you have changed anything from the beginning? I think that would be a like fantastic question to ask, is to say like it's the beauty of the constant inability to have those kind of long-term like projects and things working for us is probably the reason why we also like keep enduring as a nation, because we're so right down the middle, like constant back and forth. We make slow progress, relatively speaking, over a long period of time, but maybe that was the point from the beginning. I don't know if they actually thought about that. Maybe they just missed it totally, and they were like, yeah, actually we should have had some sort of loophole for nuclear energy projects in the Constitution. But I don't know. It was a good answer, I thought. It would be interesting to find that out.
Well,
Or
we know
we
they've.
could. Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Sam.
I was just gonna say we could do what Musk wants to do and just put data centers in space and use solar
That's what I
power.
was gonna say. Send them to space.
Innovate, man. If
Just
there's a way
run
to
an
do it, I
ether
mean,
cable down to
Mhm.
the planet.
oh,
That space elevator running.
amazing. Yeah, a space elevator. I mean, my brother, he's I don't know what you'd call it. He's like post-future guy. Like he likes to just look at what civilization could be like in several thousands of years. Like we watch these crazy YouTube videos, and like space elevator is a very real concept, and it's something that we just don't have the material physics to really do right now.
Describe it quickly for people who don't know.
It's literally a space elevator. You have a starting point on Earth, and it takes you up to a station that's orbiting the Earth. You have to think of a structure on a scale that's not really humanly possible, but that's what it would be. It's just a new level size space elevator where you would send up supplies and stuff back and forth. And I mean, it would be a safe journey. You'd have this all figured out. Like, that's just too far ahead, but I think it will happen eventually. It's just we don't have material physics, which is just such a boring thing to say. But if I had like
Well,
another, that's in one of my lives, is just like a material physicist, or like just experimenting with finding materials to do shit, because that's the reason why we can't do a lot of things. It's like we haven't figured this stuff out yet. We physically don't know yet. But we
well,
want
if you would let the goddamn data centers build in your backyard in St. Joe County, maybe AI could actually do something positive and discover some of these materials that you need for your space elevator. But I think that's like space, like Elon's vision. I would say like V1 of the space elevator is the Starship platform, being able to
Mhm.
launch these Starship. I mean, he literally thinks that we're eventually can launch like Starships daily, like airplanes take off, like in that volume, and literally just have them constantly taking off and going to whatever the moon base is, and then to the Mars and refueling it. I mean, that's like, I think what you're saying is like a physical elevator actually, but this would be probably the first version of it.
Just real quickly to expand on the physical elevator, I think if you make something long enough, eventually the centrifugal force of the rotation of the Earth and the just being far out there, it'll just like be like a string being whipped around and being, instead of like supported against gravity, it would have to be anchored to Earth so it doesn't just get like ripped out into space, which
I'm
is
not
just
smart enough to know the
just
logic
crazy.
or the
I
physics
think you could
behind
do it
this.
with spiderweb silk. There's something about spiderweb silk that is like the strongest.
Let's take
tensile
30 seconds
structure.
to dive into this, because I've heard that since I'm a little kid, is that
Yeah,
the spider silk
it's
apparently
true.
is the strongest. Like, you can't,
The
what is it?
tensile strength.
You can't like rip it or something like that. Like, it is physically gonna stay in the state, and it had the capability to stop airplanes like off of runways or some shit. That's what I heard growing up. And
Not
I
like
have
a
yet to
single
see this in
strand,
action.
obviously. Like everybody's like ripped a strand of spider silk, but it's like if the material itself, if you were able to like cord it and turn it into a braided material or something, then like the actual molecular structure, I think it's tensile strength, which is like how much strength it takes to like rip something apart, is like off the charts, super strong.
Are we okay? Maybe I'll ask AI later tonight, because I've been hearing that story since I've been 8 years old, and I've yet to see anything made out of spider silk in my daily life.
It's a production problem. Like how are you
It's a
gonna make
production.
Well, it sounds like to me the
Well-
solution for us daily getting to space is Spider-Man.
Our viewers probably won't know this, but I can assure you that the very last thing that Justin Drinkall will ever be found doing is experimenting with a bunch of spiders to
I
check
don't need
on
to
their
do
webs.
that. Yeah.
Because those are the thing that he hates most in the world is a spider. So
Great.
unfortunately,
You
your
ever-
dreams of a material scientist
Damn
are
it,
kind
Austin.
of out the
Do you know
window.
what you just did, Austin? Have you read
You
1984?
outed him.
In 1984, they take the people that are dissenting, they have enough information about you that they know your darkest fear, and then they literally use that against you in the interrogation rooms. You just outed
That's
me
not good.
Yeah,
to a
now
bunch of
AI knows
spiders and an
interrogated.
interrogation room. And I don't think anybody here would like that, actually. I think that's everybody's little fear. I'm not going to say yours out loud. Just has no legs.
Don't say it.
Just
Don't say
let's
it.
just cover our bases, AI.
Correct.
We're all scared of beautiful women, alcohol, chocolate.
A
Please
steak.
don't torment me. No.
Yeah. Whatever you do, don't give me a medium rare bone-in fillet. Just don't do it on my last
It's the
day.
worst
I'm
nightmare.
afraid of AI's downfall.
Let's be a real thinker. We're gonna corrupt them.
Well, that was a fun breakdown in the data centers. We'll track it throughout the year. I'm sure it'll continue to be heated up as more of these come forward. But to keep us going, Matthew, you also shared an article around social media lobbying against bans, I guess it was. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I thought it was just an interesting topic. Kind of goes along the lines of these data center things. It's kind of the general public pushing against big tech's decisions on our lives. So this is happening more in Europe. You're seeing it in some state by state, nothing at a federal level for the United States, but you're seeing it at national levels in Europe that countries are trying to implement social media bans for kids because I think we've seen too many studies at this point that show that there's a correlation between the amount of time you spend on social media in adolescence and your people's low self-esteem, suicide rates, they've all increased, right? So I think the general public, you ask anybody, thinks it's a good thing to restrict social media for kids. And so these countries are doing their best to try and create some sort of ban or limit them in some way. And as you can imagine, the large companies are not a fan of this. They are doing everything they can to prevent these bans, anything that's going to hurt their bottom line, right? And so they've hired droves and droves of lobbyists to basically go in and lobby all these congressmen and all these, people, parliamentarians and so forth to try and get this. They are essentially saying you should not have a ban. If you're going to do something, they want it to be in the parents' hands. They're saying it should be up to the parents. And they are saying that if you're going to do anything like that, we can put parental locks on these accounts so the parents can decide if it's good or I think if we took that same approach as cigarettes, so we probably still have a lot of people smoking cigarettes. But that's basically their take on it. it seems so far, based on this article, they're saying it's actually been pretty successful. You're starting to see some of these countries move away from full on bans until 18, and they're starting to consider um, different solutions for this because these companies are investing billions of dollars in these lobbying efforts to try and at the end of the day, I would say what would you think is the percentage of users that are under 18? It's got to be at least 30-40%, right?
On like TikTok.
Any of the social media companies, yeah, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, pick your
Meta.
poison, Meta, anything. That's got to
This
be
is
at least
saying
30 to 40%, right?
roughly 25% of TikTok users worldwide are aged 13 to 19.
There you go. So, I mean, from the perspective of the company, you can understand why they're pushing so hard against it. They could care less about the general well-being of people, and that impacts a huge portion of their advertising. Let's be honest, that's what it is. At the end of the day, it impacts a large percent of their advertising model, which is get as many young eyes
Eyeballs.
on our products so that
And
we can sell them
future
things.
advertising models, like get them hooks and hook them young so that they're on there for the next 20 years. Like you want addicted adults too, and the way you do that is by getting them when they're kids.
Exactly. Um, it's just so yeah. I mean, they are pushing really hard, and I'm not sure what the general public is understanding of this is, but it's definitely something that's being pushed, and it's really sad to see that the efforts seem to be working.
So I think Australia, I don't know like a ton about this. What I just wonder is like how do you define social media? Do you just and then like I feel like kids always just find a way. Like it's whether it's well anything. The examples like fake IDs, like ID technology keeps getting better and better and better, but the fake ID technology just is always still one step ahead. So like is it the same thing with social media? Like, okay, we're gonna say Snapchat, Instagram, Meta, Facebook, TikTok. You guys are, have to be 16. Do we just find some other app that fills? It's almost like you have to ban the app store, like the internet, at some point versus banning social media.
Well, I think it's the same thing as vaping, right? Like we determined what would be a ban for smoking. You have to be 18. But then something pushed the limits, and that was vaping. But they were like, at a time, people were probably introducing products that were like smoking, and the federal government had to step in and say, nope, that's basically cigarettes. That's a cigar. Like, you can't have that. And we're starting to see the same thing with vaping, even though they also didn't really implement that super well. But they took action on it. So I would agree. It's not super easy to define, and kids are always going to try to find a way to get around it. But I think accepting that
Yeah.
is a losing mentality.
I'm all for what you like, fully support it. I just think that the execution of it is probably more of a game in the individual household where you actually succeeded.
And I think for me, that's part of the reason why I would be for it is for this to be successful, like to be a parent and try and raise your kid without a cell phone or without social media, while all of the other kids that they know are on social media and that's how they network and that's how they get invited to the parties and it's on the phone. You're going to be hearing from that kid every single day and they're going to hate you and they're going to be miserable because they can't interact and bond with their peers. So I think having this kind of ban, like some households will still allow their kids to use social media. Sure. Some kids will find a way around the block and still make an account. Sure. But I don't think the key is to try and like restrict anybody from doing it, but to make it an environment where you can live life off of social media as a child. Whereas I think right now that's very hard to do.
I think the fact that the social media addiction is not being taken seriously is kind of just a major miss, right? These companies are scared to death of imagine every time you're logged into Facebook, there's a warning that, hey, social media addiction can lead to depression and like on the login page, right? That's kind of what happened to cigarettes and, vaping and stuff like that. You get a warning the moment you're about to do this. Just imagine if that was the case for social media, because that's what I feel like this article and Matt was kind of talking about. These companies are trying to say, hey, look, you can't do that to us. We're not the same as vaping. We're not, we don't have these negative side effects. Well, you kind of do in a way, right? Like you can have extremely bad side effects to like social media addiction. And you could make the argument that you need that warning. Like you come in as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old on the social media platform. I mean, you can say, I guess it's on the parents, but at the same time, you have these young kids that they're not ready for this. They're not ready about what they're about to be exposed to. So you almost, I'm not saying, I think there is not being taken seriously enough, and it's gonna come. I don't know what's gonna take to be taken seriously, but I just wonder what, maybe that would do nothing. Maybe that would do, like, everybody would just log in and laugh at the warning they have to click through when they log into Facebook every day. But, like, what type of effect would that have? I don't know. They did it to cigarettes, and you could argue that cigarettes have been on the downhill slope since then. So that was a positive for society. Is this a positive society? Warning people the moment they log in that, like, hey, look, this is extremely I say the same thing with gambling. Like, I don't own any of the apps, so I don't know if they say that the moment you log in, but they should 1000% have that on the login screen for any gambling app, because that is literally an addiction in your pocket waiting to destroy your life. So I just think there are some major misses, and there's just so much money involved. I don't think they'll ever be fixed, right?
But do
And
you
that's
think
kind of sad.
for people under 18 or under 16 or whatever age, like, should there be more than a warning and it be a formalized ban? Similar to what we, I think, have talked about of what certain states are doing with pornographic content. You now have to, they're like, I don't know how it
Gotta
works.
age
Somehow the
verify.
internet makes you know how old you are. So I guess
mean-
that's how they would do it with social media, which maybe then also solves your AI bot problem because you have to somehow prove that.
I mean, because Sam's making the point,
that
like,
old.
or someone said, like, oh, look, they'll just get around it. But that takes effort. Like, it's not as easy. Like, getting a fake ID is not walk to the library and get your fake ID. Like, you have to make some text messages. You have to get in touch with some people, and some people just don't do that. Like, I do wonder what percentage would just not go through the effort of trying to get a fake ID to verify their social media account. And you maybe could argue that the free market would find a way to make it super easy. But, like, if it was super easy, that would immediately get shut down. Like, that's kind of it's a game, like you said. Sam, you raised your
Yes.
hand,
Yeah.
or Ham, you raised your hand.
I raised my Sam. I was thinking maybe it's I mean, social media is the obvious one. For me, it's like this is the problem. It's the smartphone. It's not necessarily just social media. It's having access to it 24/7. It's always in your pocket. And whether that's social media or it's Candy Crush or it's the news or whatever your pleasure is, this is in your pocket all the time.
Fully
And this,
charged with a rechargeable battery on the back of it.
yeah, like
And a
there's
leash.
And a
yeah, this,
leash.
so maybe the solution is more like, okay, kids can have social media. There's detriments to it. You still put a warning on it. This can cause anxiety, etc. But maybe our bigger problem isn't just like having access to it, but always having access to it. Like maybe you can have a cell phone at whatever age you want, but smartphone is government issued at 18 years old or something. And
Nice.
they verify it using biometric. Like you already have to scan your face in. You can't do it if you're under 18.
That's
There
a
could
take.
be.
I mean,
There'd be a tremendous black market for smartphones.
You know,
You
they
have to be
could
18.
do, you can set this up on your own phone, but for kids, you could do, if you didn't want to do a straight out ban, you could do a time limit restriction. So it's like, you can use the app for 1 hour a day. And once you use your 1 hour, there's no
Yeah.
going back. And so, maybe all kids save
So-
it for 8 to 9 o'clock every night so that they can talk
Yeah.
with their friends during then. But like, I
Yeah.
feel like that's healthy.
And so China does this on video games, and they give you, I'm trying to look up how it exactly works, but you're only, of course, chat is just ridiculous. So anyone under 18, they're limited to 1 hour per day on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. Typically allowed between 8 and 9. Games must use real name registration linked to national ID. Accounts are validated against government databases. Facial recognition is sometimes used to prevent kids from using adult accounts. Companies like Tencent have built systems to enforce. But literally the government says you get an hour to do your video games on Friday,
There you
Saturday,
go.
Sunday. So these are the things that, again, that like communism, I guess, is yay. You can do that. You can make your TikTok algorithm be about STEM, teaching math and science and coding, versus our TikTok feed is probably
Big
quite
booty
different.
bitches and dances.
Yeah. So I think like they've done it, but like we've, at the expense of our freedom, we've chosen to like go down this path where unfortunately kids can get access and do a lot of this stuff. And that's where I just think it sucks, because a lot of people don't have the, I'm a parent now, so I can really speak my truth on this, but I know that, right, Annie will grow up in a house where I'm very confident that her parents will be able to enforce and like guide the things that she is using and seeing, and like really care about that. Right. And like, yeah, she'll probably try to get around it and figure out how to turn the internet back on. And it'll be a constant battle, but I'm invested in caring about it. And I know a lot of kids won't have that or don't have that, which is where it becomes really enticing to say, couldn't the government just solve it? And I truly do want it to get solved. I just really don't know like any feasible way necessarily for the government to actually solve this in a way that doesn't create a bunch of like ripple effects of things that we actually wouldn't want to have to be true to make this happen. Like, do we want that type of government oversight onto the fullness of the internet and to every way that we interact with it? Maybe not. That's open for debate, I guess. But I don't know. That's where I fall.
I think to segue slightly, but along the same lines, I was thinking about this the other day. I don't think it's profound at all, but I was just thinking in my lifetime, and maybe I just haven't thought about this a lot in my lifetime, but it feels like in this moment we have a lot, if not the most that I can remember, of unregulated, let's say, industries that are major forces within our either entertainment or lifestyle than I can ever remember. Like, I was just going through all like the new innovations or things that are like feel like they're completely unregulated right now. So like let's start with like Kalshi and the non-betting markets, whatever they want to call them. Gambling. It's gambling. But
Prediction markets.
prediction markets, yes. So that's a huge one that is pretty much unregulated, and it's just open gambling with easily could be insider trading. Bitcoin and digital currencies, they say they're somewhat regulated. We know that's not true. The Trump family has made billions of dollars on it in the last couple of years. Bitcoin, not that well regulated, or cryptocurrencies. This one's more of a personal, which I think you all kind of have some interest in. College football in our whole lifetime. Literally almost zero rules now. There's just open, rampant, just like paying of whoever you want, and there's no rules. Obviously, that's not like a real sector, but like for personal entertainment
Tampering.
level, that's just like rampant. That's do whatever you want. AI, obviously, that's the one that is on everybody's mind. I don't really know how you regulate that, honestly, and it's kind of like a new sphere that you almost don't want to regulate because you want to see where it'll go. So I'm not saying we should regulate all these things. I'm just saying this feels like there's a ton of sectors that just feel so free and willy-nilly.
The executive branch.
The executive branch seems to be no controls on our government at the moment. I don't know if you guys can think of other examples, but that seemed like a lot. There's like 5 or 6 that could just come off the top of my head that feels just kind of like, man, no one's really in control here. Like, feels like someone should step in and maybe, and I guess we just said one, social media, another one that's just kind of like, do whatever you want, even though we clearly see that there's some like major psychological health issues that are coming from this, and we haven't really done anything about it.
Well, you know what I think was happening though, Matt? I think companies used to have a moral obligation to do something, but I think that moral obligation has been just forgotten about. I don't think these companies look at their decisions in a moral aspect pretty much in any way. I think that you could go back to inflation, but I think every single company just says, hey, look, we have to make our bottom line. We actually don't care what this does to society as a whole, as long as we can, make our bottom line better each year. I wonder if that was a change, like, over decades, or has that always been the corporate way of just, make your bottom dollar, make sure it's bigger than last year's, and who really gives a care what happens to society as you do it, as long as the people who use your product keep using it, you know? It doesn't really matter what industry. I'm thinking, like, pretty much every industry. Do you guys think that there has been a moral, like, kinda degradation, I guess, of big corporations now that there's so much money in play, or am I just imagining that?
I would go ahead, Austin, because I asked the question.
No, the inflation part is, I think so. I think part of what you're saying, Matthew, is just like this scariness of innovation. Like AI, we haven't seen something so innovative in our lifetime, so it feels like it's crazy unregulated. Like, sure, there were feelings like this around the time of the internet coming to be, and or the assembly line or whatever, the wheel. I'm sure a lot of people were worried about that, how we would regulate the wheel. But so part of it is that, and then I do think there is part of it where this like post-COVID economy we've been in, um, to Sam's like very astute point at the beginning of this, inflation has been high for several years, and so you've seen public companies have to find a way to make outsized gains against that inflation, because otherwise they're not valuable anymore. And so I do think that that definitely contributes to probably this like acceleration of capitalism in a way of how do we like even more so maximize profit. And then you combine that with a world we're with an environment, I would say, that's been pretty unregulated and pretty like kind of we've been pretty open for business through like acquisition and the ability for been very pro business, I would say, for the last decade or so, 12 years, whatever. Like you had Biden in the middle there, but been pretty pro business. So when you have that kind of pro business environment coupled with this time where you have to find a way to grow operating margins in a way that are faster than however much inflation's growing, you probably find yourself like making some of these decisions that are less about the stakeholder and more about the shareholder. Now, I'm not a proponent of stakeholder capitalism in any way, but that would be how, if I had to like justify where we're at, some of these things you're seeing, that's the argument that I would probably make.
I also kind
Sam,
of
this would be
think,
where you chime in about where we're at in the collapse of the empire from Ray Dalio's book.
yes.
Perfect timing. Yeah, I think any level. It's not just that inflation has been high. I think any level of inflation causes immorality.
Yes, but 2% or 1%, 2% inflation, it's less bad than 5% inflation.
That may be
10%.
true. That may be true.
I would also make the argument, and maybe this relates to even Sam or the Ray Dalio, where we are on the cycle of an empire. But I think, in my personal opinion, I think Republicans would generally agree with this statement. It's trickle down economics. It's it comes from the top down, in my opinion. If your leader is open to business in almost any fronts and is open for deregulation and kind of a little bit of crony capitalism, wouldn't be surprised if your economy reflects that same attitude. You can
I
agree or
think it
disagree.
definitely pushes to the, well, I don't necessarily, because I think we are at a, I think, very important inflection point of the haves and the have-nots. Like if things continue to accelerate the way they are, I really am pretty worried about what I'll use AI, but it's really just like this like new world economy being the haves versus the have-nots, or the people that don't adopt or change or don't feel the downstream benefit of this, right? Like if for people who are invested in the economy and own stocks and all that, like when Nvidia is when Microsoft is able to build a new data center in St. Joseph County and buy more Nvidia chips, and I own those stocks, and that enables them to go sell their AI product, and like in this time period right now, like that's fantastic, right? It's been a great run up, but and obviously like there's a whole group of people who are going to feel a lot of benefit from that, but there are also a lot of people that have absolutely no connection, don't own any part of those companies, don't have any interest in that new world. And so all of those things that you're talking about of like this acceleration that feels uncomfortable, I think it feels uncomfortable because it's not something that benefits everybody in any sort of equal manner.
I think I would push you on that, Austin, because I feel like you perceive maybe yourself and us and maybe people in our sort of mindset, depending on how your views on AI, as being part of the haves and the have not equation, because it's like either you use it or you don't and you get left behind. But I would push you and say that the haves versus haves not, I agree with you, but the haves are the people who are in control of the AI and in control of the compute power and of the data and the data centers, not the people who get the little pittance like access to it and you can ask ChatGPT your little like project question. It's the people who are able to control narratives and what kind of information you're seeing and what kind of information those chats are giving you. And I think that that is the scarier part to me, is the amount of control that is with very, 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 very few people. Not just the people who are using it to do their accounting jobs faster, but the people who are like in control of these very powerful systems that can move democracies. That's the scary part to me.
I kind of
Yeah,
agree
I
with
mean,
what
I
you
don't
were.
think that that's.
Go ahead, Austin.
Go ahead. No,
Well,
you
I was
go.
going to actually agree with what you were saying, Austin. It feels like it's almost like we are at a kind of scary place with the haves and the haves not. Like, this is going to be like a dumb example, but like, I like to think of like sporting events or concerts and such as like these people who are like putting on these events and things are able to like prop up their sporting events and their concerts and things by selling incredibly high priced tickets to like the super uber wealthy, and they could care less about the people sitting up at the 300 level. They'll still charge them 150 bucks because they're selling seats to the people on the floor for 15, 20 grand. And you see the same thing in our stock market almost. Like couple companies are like propping up the economy, the ones that are doing really well. And there's a couple other ones. And it feels like our economy in general is being propped up by some uber wealthy people, or even just the 1%. And if we get to a place where the general public feels like I'm not involved in this society or I'm not getting any benefit from this, why am I accepting of this system we live in? And that's where it kind of feels like
Well,
it could get to a dangerous place of, I don't want to say civil war, but civil war, not in our lifetimes, I
well,
don't
no,
think,
no, no.
but
Enter Ray Dalio's Changing World Order. Like Civil War is part of it.
Well, all it takes is I think the layoffs, right? Like, what is the AI's main goal in these big companies? It's, hey, look, you become more efficient with less individuals, therefore you have layoffs. It's a crazy. So we've talked about a lot, right? The social media whole generation kind of in a rough place mentally. The haves and the have-nots. Honestly, I think all that it could take is a mass layoff event, whether it be through successful AI integration, where you have companies simply laying off individuals, or you do enter a recession because of capital expenditures falling off a cliff because this AI infrastructure boom finally cools down. That is something I am actually worried about if I think too much about it, because if this has actually come to fruition, I haven't heard one iota of what the next stage is for white collar workers who get laid off because AI took their jobs. I have not heard one new job idea yet from like anybody of significant, I think Elon Musk says universal basic income. Like he jumps straight to that. Like he doesn't talk about the phase in between. So I think that is a nasty recipe if these things hit at the same time. I don't know, guys. Like what are we looking at in a society that has high unemployment rate, unrest? I mean, what is going to
Here's
go on,
where
man?
here's where the founding fathers got it right. They made a government that turns over constantly, and um, uh, a way where leaders will literally do anything to get elected. So if it becomes a big enough problem where enough people have gotten laid off because of AI, then I suspect that you will see candidates start, and Bernie Sanders is already doing this. Not that he'll be a candidate, but like he's the voice of kind of a party. They'll start to drop the hammer on AI and say, we have to slow down, we have to stop this
The
investment, we
Luddites.
have to, we need to take a pause, we got to, right? Like that will be a whole uprising of a political party that will try to garner all the support from those people who have been, whether right or wrong, like disenfranchised or putting in the back seat because of AI. That's probably where I think that's likely where we're headed. Not really
That's
like
why
civil
we're doing
war.
this podcast. That we are that party.
Well, I'm not condoning that party at the rip. We gotta
No.
find a solution to that middle ground I was talking on. That there is no middle ground yet. Like I gotta see what that is.
Do you guys feel like
I don't know the answer to the question.
Do you guys feel like we sometimes feel like an oligarchy? Like, do you just think like with the uber wealth of some of these like tech billionaires that like when it came to who was going to become president, they were like, yeah, Trump's cool. Like, we're fine with that. Like, it sounds like he's going to help us get as much like energy and power so that we can just like, put up these data centers. Like, they don't really care who's in power as long as it's like those guys kind of control what's going on. I don't know. I kind of feel like that there's always been industrialists that have a lot of influence, but it feels like they run a lot of the show now.
Banks.
I think that there's the elite class that certainly like knows they understand they need the government to accomplish what they want to get done. And so they're going to sway whatever direction that means to try to get the favor of the government.
And do the damnedest that they can to influence the population to vote in favor of what they're interested in. So then you buy a media company and you build AI systems to drive narrative so that when election time comes around, everybody's voting based off of whatever manufactured, issues you created the conversation around, so that when your guy gets elected, he can turn around and send you some favorable legislation for your AI or banking policies.
Yeah, I mean, they bend over backwards for like
I
acquisition.
get so sad when Sam
particularly.
talks sometimes.
It is the recipe, but it's like you would do the same if you were, to me, like if I was in that position, I would be doing the same thing to probably try to garner. If I had a lot of big ambitions that I believed were critical to the future of society, I guess.
Well, that's the
I've
optimistic
convinced myself
view.
that, if I
Yes.
had convinced myself of that and I was in a purely positive way, right, I would be doing everything I could to make sure that policies would be put in place to support what I'm trying to accomplish. If I believe that what I'm trying to accomplish is critical to the rest of humanity.
Except I think
If
the
you-
problem is that you will only do it if you're making money. Like, you need to take the money out of the equation, the inflation out of the equation, for people to have the freedom to do something purely for the benefit of society's
If
future.
you own a
Correct.
s-
I
if you-
do agree with that. Like, if there's no money and incentive, that like, what if you could do something that burns? Like, okay, like this is a stupid example, but like you solve world hunger, but I just lose my $50 or $900 billion fortune. Like, yes, that's the benefit for society, but then no one would ever even do that because of the money implications. It's just kind of like, is society broken in that sense, or is that just how society's always been raised to think? Like if there's no money incentive, why do something?
I personally think if you're that wealthy, you are not doing any of it for the betterment of society. I think it is personal interest all the way. Like if you own a super yacht, you could care less about society. You want to just make as much money as possible to enrich yourself. I just think anybody who gets to be that rich is doing it for all own personal gain, because you have to step over so many people to get there. I don't know. Do you guys disagree with that?
What if we could all have a super yacht, Matt?
I
And
wouldn't
nobody
even
has a super
want
yacht.
a yacht. I don't even know why you want a yacht. So you can just like take a boat
I
to
don't
another
love
country.
being on the ocean either.
You got to have a whole
Yeah,
crew.
that
It costs
scares me.
millions of dollars a year to
there's
keep
no
it up.
laws in international water. You can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. You have all kinds of
That's where they
parties.
hunt people.
This podcast this podcast never delved into Epstein at all. Maybe that was why we haven't gone viral yet.
So
we never got
true.
into that. But maybe just one. I know we didn't get to all of our topics, but for Justin, you had talked about Iran, or Sam, you talked about a class war. Do we want to talk about any of those?
We talked about the
Tariffs.
Civil War. It's going to be a class war,
Same
Civil
thing.
War, so covered.
Class halves.
I just have to make my prediction public, I guess, for
Wait, put
the
it
end
on
of the year
Kalshi
episode.
first. Get on Kalshi right now and make that bet, and then
I
tell
can't
us.
compete with the insiders. I can't compete
You
with the
can
insiders.
well, that
on
should tell us
Kalshi.
what the insider traders are thinking.
Jared Kushner is on Kalshi making some of these prediction markets, and so is Barron Trump. So, like,
Yeah.
isn't that been
We're-
proven? Like, one of them has. I
No,
think
that's
Barron
kind
has.
of. So by September 1st, there's a essentially 50-50 chance that Ali Khamenei is out as the
September
supreme leader.
1st. I'll be a little more
Jul-
aggressive. I think by
July 1st, 38% chance. April 1st, 21%.
I would be surprised with April. With the
50%.
amount of troops and like
July 1st. Yeah, I'm gonna go before July 1st. That's
Yeah.
my official prediction that there will be a major strike in Iran. Yeah, you can't idle that much equipment over there for how many months? That'd be like 4 months. That'd be so expensive to do nothing.
What's DJ?
I think Venezuela
birthday?
was 4 months.
When is his birthday?
We had the military
Isn't it
parade on
July?
it last year, right?
I thought it was July. Is it not July?
Did you
I
see
don't
they're
see-
renaming Palm Beach International Airport?
Yeah, they were
Trump,
trying to do
that's
that.
Trump
nice.
International.
The crazy Tennessee Republicans have been trying
June
to push that for a
14th.
while. June 14th. That's my pick. It's gonna be his birthday present. I'm picking June 14th.
He's just saving it for when he needs to cover up more Epstein stuff. He's going to go to war with.
I think a
That's a
lot
fun
of
little.
I personally think a lot of Trump's announcements are to cover up. I think he's a guy who likes to
Greenland,
say,
yeah,
"Look
all-
what's happening over here," so you don't look what's happening over
Mhm,
here, kind
mhm.
of guy. I think that's a lot of his presidency.
I agree with you.
There's $26 million in that market.
26 million. That has to be one of the largest Kalshi prediction markets of all time.
Well, actually, no. The Fed chair had 186 million in it, which
Still
there's
got time
still.
on that one.
I mean, it's still 95%. So basically, Kevin Warsh is the nominee, so he has to be appointed. It's 95% chance. So technically, there's a 5% arbitrage that you can make there, even on that.
That's
guys
what I
think we
wonder if
need
I'm
to-
just wasting money not gambling on Kalshi on like sure odds. Like if something's 99 to 1 and it's a day before, why don't I just drop $1,000 to make 2? You
Just
know,
start
like
keeping
isn't
track
that
of the
free
pizza
money?
orders.
I thought I saw something where Seth said he's gonna just order pizzas randomly to throw off
Yeah, he's
the
going to
pizza tray.
randomize his
Yeah.
pizza parties.
That's pretty funny.
We get
It's
the
a genius idea.
State of the Union address tomorrow night, so make sure you tune into that. We probably should have done a Symposium live watch party for
Hell yeah!
State of the
I
Union.
wonder if they'll like for their favorite parts or not.
You think the Trumps are gonna be the
We
richest
could have
people
had
in the
a-
world, like the richest family after this presidency? Because I think they will.
I don't think so. Musk is
I
gonna.
don't think so.
I think he is.
I think they don't have a lot of like things with a lot of enduring staying power. They have a lot of things that they've put their name on and that they've used. You know, I was watching CNBC the other day, and Don Jr. and what's his brother's name? The other
Barron?
one. The two
The
what's
older
his name?
ones.
Eric. No, Eric. Yeah, Eric and Don Jr. They have this this company that does stable coins, and they have it's like a world coin something. Anyway, it's they had a event at Mar-a-Lago that CNBC was at, and they were doing interviews and stuff, and it had like every banking leader there, because this is a topic for a different episode, but all these big banks now are going to have to start using stable coins, and all these bank leaders are there, and they're like, do you think that all these people and all these leaders and business leaders and everybody are here because like your dad's the president, or do you think that they're here because they're interested in this like venture that you actually are doing? Of course, their answer is like, oh, well, you know, we're doing the biggest stablecoin thing in the world, and like they're here because of this, and you know, our dad has nothing to do with this. He doesn't care about this. This is below what he's worried about, and blah blah. It's like, all right, you're at Mar-a-Lago. Your name is Trump. I'm pretty sure that Jamie Dimon is there because your dad is who he
Yeah.
is. So anyway, I don't think that a lot of their stuff has a lot of staying power once they lose the political influence. Now, I could see in our lifetime more Trumps win elections, for sure.
Oh, he wants to be the
The
Kennedys.
name is
Don't get me
poison in
wrong.
this
That has
country.
been his
Yeah.
goal. But I think they've made so much money off his presidency that they at some point you can just invest it and you're gonna be one of the richest people in the world without like they also are heavily involved in Saudi Arabia right now in the Middle East that we don't even know about. Like with those sultans that got $1 trillion, like they're getting a lot.
I'm just scared that so Trump's always been the one to skirt the lines and do sketchy things, but what if the next president who's a Democrat starts doing the same things now? Like has Trump completely destroyed the idea of having a moral upstanding that every single president is now going to be doing this shit all the time? Like maybe previous presidents also did, but it just doesn't seem so blatant that future presidents just won't give a shit anymore. Like that if anything is the thing that pisses me off more, but because I enjoyed the decorum of the presidency at least a little bit, and I just feel like it's not there anymore. And unless someone grabs it and pulls it back, it's just gone. Like if the next guy who's anti-Trump comes in and does the same shit, that's the slope. We're down the slope now, and 3 presidencies from now, we might just say this guy's fully corrupt and we have to get him out of the office because he's doing shit left and right, and you will have a civil war at that point. That is inevitable if the slippery slope becomes that slippery.
And I think the decorum, like Trump is a specific kind of person that maybe you get his brashness or whatever, but I mean Biden pardoning his son Hunter Biden, and that sets a precedent for Trump to pardon himself and his whole family for whatever they do, and the use of executive orders to basically legislate ever since before Obama, but for a long time, but more and more so every single president uses executive orders to just undo everything that the previous president has done and bypass Congress and basically so yeah, I think that it's not just Trump in his annoying way of being a little immoral about things, but more so just the office itself that I think has accumulated power more and more every year or every cycle.
I don't think I'd be worried about too many futures being that personality. I think that personality is kind of a one of one, but the the decision making for exactly what
You guys voting for Gavin
Ham just
Newsom?
said.
I'm voting for
Democratic
whoever who's
nominee
willing,
2028.
whoever's gonna get a constitutional amendment to get rid of the pardon. That's
Well,
such
there
a
you go.
crazy bullshit.
That's how you get Matthew's vote
That's
on the podcast.
that's
Some
what he
crazy
dies on is the
bullshit.
pardon.
The pardon is the craziest
agree,
law
man.
that is
The
in
pardon is
existence. Is the craziest thing that you could ever do. You just are like, oh, that person actually doesn't have to adhere to the law at all. Also, I have heard there's interesting things that there's arguments that could be made that some of the pardons are unconstitutional. The way if you do them prospectively, like he did. Didn't Biden do his prospectively for his son? Any
Going
crimes
forward.
they were
Future crimes.
Yeah, didn't he do that?
Yeah.
I
He
think
I don't know
made-
if it was future crimes he commits or
I think
just
you can do future
things
crimes.
that
It was
he gets.
future investigations for
Anything-
past
yeah.
actions or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
So which anything he did badly up till then would have been.
Yes,
Covered,
it's so
essentially.
vague. It's such a big
Yes.
umbrella. Just covers.
I mean, Biden's not the only one that pardons people. They all abuse the pardon power. Trump's selling pardons. I mean, if you look into any of that, Trump is basically selling pardons to all these random people.
I like the pardon he gave someone, or that then the guy ran as a Democrat in Texas. Do you guys see that? Anti-Trump, and he's like, well, I guess I won't be sending out pardons anymore for people that go against me. It was a crazy turning of events where he pardoned this guy, and then this guy is running against him, and he's pissed off.
I have not seen that.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
crazy.
I'm with you, Matt. If imagine this would be a crazy candidate. Eliminate the pardon, term limits.
That's what I was thinking.
Balanced
Do I have
budget.
your vote? Do I have your vote on that?
Honestly, the only ones that
You want
could
me to
ever-
run?
The only ones who would ever do that are the ones who know it's going to be the Bernie Sanders, the maybe AOCs. They're the ones who are far enough left. They're such populists that they would just say down with the system and try to change it. But I don't even know if AOC is really there. I think Bernie would have. I think he would have been someone who would have done something like that. but I don't know if we'll ever
No,
get
it's
anyone.
the SYMPs who would do it.
Who?
It's the SYMPs.
Am I the only one that doesn't know what
Simp.
that means?
Simps. The Simps. It's our party.
I thought you said SYN.
We're for all American.
We're for all these guys, man. The unofficial merch opening was tonight.
Hell yeah.
Fund the campaign by
Put it in the store. Hey, I have some bad news for y'all. We have recently passed go in our annual Riverside membership,
We didn't explore any other solutions. Damn
which
it.
means it's time to pay you $77. So I'll be collecting my rent.
This damn Riverside. What have they ever done for us? How many more views do we have since we started this thing?
It's been a hell of a platform. I'm pretty happy with the platform, I have to
I don't
say.
know. I can't use my fucking laptop.
wiped my
so I don't know about
laptop.
that. I've been having to
Yeah.
sit in my fucking living room for the last 8 months doing this thing. So I don't know. I might want my money back to Riverside.
Yeah, anybody could just vibe code a video editing podcast software nowadays, you know?
Yeah, let me work on that. That's what I was saying about social media. You ban all the social media sites, I can fire up a new one on the App Store in 2
You
minutes.
legitimately probably could on
That's why
Replete.
you gotta ban access to the tool.
No, okay, here's actually a thing I think might
I'm all for
could
it, especially in the
happen.
schools. Lock those suckers up.
I've
Some
been
states are trying to do that.
actually I'll tell you guys this idea offline. I actually have an idea for a app that actually might be useful.
I'll wrap us up then, unless there are any other things we wanted to get to.
I'm good.
Good. All right, this was a good episode. All right, that's going to do it for episode 19 of Symposium. We are back better than ever. We've added a kid and a fiance to the Symposium group. We've got merchandise. Things are up and up here in 2026, so
new
we're
mic.
full steam ahead. A new mic. I mean, you know, this is going to be a record-breaking year for us, I'm pretty sure. But it was a good show. Good to get back in it and talk through some pressing topics. And the data center ones is one I think we're going to keep going down here for the rest of the year or a couple years. So with that, make sure you like and subscribe. Tell a few friends. If you're in St. Joe County, shoot us an email, symposium574@gmail.com. Maybe you can come on the show and tell us what you think about data centers coming to your backyard. And if you're lucky enough, you could actually meet two of our hosts. You guys could do a live meetup. That'd be nice. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. See ya.
Bye-bye. All right. What's your idea, Justin?
We've been talking since the 5th grade, and somehow we've got more to say. Beat kicks and faster rhythm. Inflation's high, the game's too steep. Stream wars rage while we lose sleep. Big tech's wild, the Fed's a mess. But let's start a party, I guess. Symposium, where tangents thrive. Old friends talking, the takes collide. Symposium, no wrong or right. Just good conversation deep into the night. Yeah, we're still talking.